Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to ChriswithaC. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. On the table, now this was an idea from one of my viewers, and I'll put a picture up in a moment for you right now. Basically, he asked me, well, what tools do you use? How much you need to spend? Is it essentially buy expensive tools, or what do you use to get all your cars fixed and cleaned and tidy and working? And guys, look, I'm a hobbyist, all right? I'm not a professional YouTuber or anything like that. I literally use what I feel works for me to get the job done. And I'm going to show you how cheap or how expensive you could actually go into this. Now, I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong way to doing this. More power to you if you're spending more money on your screwdrivers, or let's say bits, or maybe a spanner or so on and so forth, or a really good soldering iron. I'm showing you from my perspective how I get things done. Now, things might change for me. I am planning on having a little studio, basically. When I say studio, a summer house, all right, for doing all my wrenching, all my videos, that sort of thing. That is the long-term goal for me. But subjectively at the moment is keeping costs down, but still manage to maintain my vehicles in a good working order as cheaply and effectively as I can. Now, hopefully this video will enlighten some of you. You don't need a lot of money really, as long as you're buying the correct tools, or even finding some tools that work for you. So I thought it was an interesting concept for a video. I'm going to show you in a second, and we'll dive down and go from there. But yeah, it's a bit of a different kind of video for me. So please bear with me. I hope you enjoy it, and we can go from there, guys. If you're interested in tools to work with, this is the one for you. Let's go. Right, guys, interesting one for me actually to produce this video, because it makes me realise that I don't actually spend a great deal on tools, and I use what's near me and what I've got to hand to actually make things work. Now, there are a few caveats to that, and I will go over that in a second. Now, I'm going to start kind of left to right and then just talk you through my choices. Quite important, I would say, is get yourself a good set of Lexan scissors. This will help you with your bodies, obviously trimming and so on and so forth. Moving on up is a good quality screwdriver, something with obviously you can put your bits into. I always have a butane torch to hand, basically for loosening off any screws. Now, caveat to that is, as you can see, I have got an old soldering iron here that is a bit of a mess, but I tend to use that on any screws that don't come loose. I also have several different drill bits, basically, that work for tapping out certain screws or making holes in, let's say, the chassis or something. Now this, guys, the screwdriver, I'd have multiple people asking me the same question with this. It's actually really cheap. I paid £15 UK money for this, Mac Tools, and it's a rechargeable, adjustable screwdriver with various different settings on the clutch. And at the back end of it, just to quickly show you, we have got a torch as well. Now, I use this on a regular basis. I've got a little bit of arthritis in my hands, and also I'm waiting for a carpal tunnel operation on my hand. But this has been actually worth its weight in gold. I really, really love that driver. I am planning on changing this out for a DeWalt soon, one of the gyroscopic drivers, mine. So, but this has served its purpose really, really well for the past year and a half. Now, for those to work, what I will say is get yourself some good quality speed bits. All right, so the screwdriver, the electric screwdriver, I use these MIP bits, as you can see here, a 1.5, a 2.5 and a 2mm. Now, recently I've just gone and bought some really nice quality screwdrivers as well, but these are essential. Now, you could possibly go for a cheaper version, maybe, I don't know, there are other brands out there, but I wouldn't go too cheap, guys, because what you're going to end up doing is, and I did find out quite dramatically, quite quickly, is if you go for a lesser brand, you've got more chance of stripping your hex screws out. Okay, so bouncing on to that, I then was using these screwdrivers. Now I've kept the 3mm pure and simply because I don't often come across 3mm screws, but this one has held up really nicely. But the actual screwdrivers I had previously, they're okay, but they weren't anywhere near as good quality. Again, get yourself a set of good quality screwdrivers. MIP, once again, I can't sing their praises enough. Since I've been using these, I haven't had any issues with screws. In fact, sometimes the screw will possibly be not as strong as it needs to be, and these screwdrivers are too much, but that's another story. Now, wheel wrench. This is the one that comes with any of the Arrma 6S range, as you can probably recognise. But the beauty of these is they do have multiple sockets on the end of them. I believe that's 7, that's 12. I'm not sure what that is. I haven't got my glasses on. Sorry, 8, 7 and 10. And then you've got your 17mm. Now, I also use that for soldering. So I drop my bullet connectors on there on a piece of wood, and I actually use that for centering my bullets. I recently picked up one of these from Amazon. It was only £6, 17mm Allen wrench, hex wrench, and it works really, really good. £6 on Amazon. I will put a link in the description to that. Now, may see a random one, but brushes, guys. I've got a selection of brushes here that I use on a regular basis. These are all I use for getting any dirt and crud and everything else out. And make sure you've got them done. So what I find is a car is so much easier to work on when you've got rid of all the debris out of the screw head, so on and so forth. You have a little pick tool just to remove any debris out of any of the hexes. But yeah, keep your cars tidy and your cars will look after you. Multiple wrenches, or plumber's wrench, adjustable wrench. You've also got this one here. Again, they were cheap and nasty, but they do the job. A little toothbrush, that's the follow on with obviously that. Now again, the brushes, believe it or not, are quite an important part, I find. This, guys, was in a dentist kit, and I use that for picking out any debris out of the vehicle. And O-rings is what I tend to use it for. So I tend to hook the O-ring underneath, and then obviously I can remove the O-ring without damaging it, and obviously my hands won't get into certain places. Nice set of sharp hobby knives, that sort of thing. Again, cheap, cheerful Amazon jobs. I've then got one screwdriver I use for prying. Bouncing down, I've got my Kyosho turnbuckle spanner. Again, I haven't had the need to replace this yet, but this works well. Now, battery checker to check your cells. Something that I recommend everyone having, obviously, just to check, obviously, your cells are balanced while you're out and about, and also the actual level of your batteries. Set of pliers, these ones have had better days. I'm currently using these ones. Again, I haven't spent a lot on those. So there's not really a lot to shout home about there. Apart from really sort of the MIP bits. Quite easy to get hold of, nice and cheap. Everything's cheap and cheerful. Get yourself a car stand. Definitely handy, again on Amazon. Yeah, all right, this phone doesn't really fit properly, but whatever. But I found this quite handy when I'm doing diffs or shocks, as well as putting the car on. It comes with a magnetic tray for obviously your screws. You've probably seen in the previous videos, I also use an ice cube tray to put my screws in. As I mentioned, the soldering iron. Get yourself a program card. Now, I can't stress this enough. This is essential. All right, when I say essential, it's definitely essential for programming your ESCs, whether it be Hobbywing, Spectrum, BLX, you name it. I haven't had anything that hasn't been able to be read with this programming card yet. Again, cheap and cheerful, it was about £10. And that's about it, guys. I mean, I've got various different bits and bobs sat in there. Oh, and the other thing to mention, in fact, I'll pause it 2 seconds and I'll show you. Right, okay guys, now soldering irons. A lot of people will tell you need to spend a fortune. Just to get the job done, I'm being straight with you. I paid £4.98 for all of this, except for the flux on Amazon. No, sorry, not on Amazon, on AliExpress. This is an 80 watt soldering iron. I used it recently on, let's have a look, on TLR to change over the connectors. Works really, really well. You've got your extractor there for obviously your solder, your pump. Very easy to use. Handy if you've got too much pooling up. And then obviously that to suck it out. And then you push it back down all the way. And then one more time, like so, to push out your solder. Get yourself a good quality flux. Quite important, that one, to definitely let your solder flow. Solder itself, I'm only using what came with it at the moment, but I mean, you can go quite expensive with solder. What I will say is, as I found out recently, the more you pay for solder, the easier soldering becomes. And remember, guys, you want a mix of tin and also lead, not just lead based. I think a 60-40 is the actual mix you need, and try to get rosin core at the same time. So obviously that's a flux-based solder. Little stand, bit of a sponge to wipe off your tip on your soldering iron. Obviously, the reason why I've got that plug is obviously because, as you can see, in the UK we use a three-prong plug as opposed to the 2-pin, and some extra bits. Now, as I say, not a lot here, guys, expense-wise. Apart from spending some money on my bits and my screwdrivers, I will say the whole lot is just stuff I had either lying around or has cost me very little to nothing. Now, can you spend more? Yes, you can. But me personally, this year, seems like a lot obviously laid out, but it's not. Most of this will actually go back into my toolbox. Now, I've got various different bits and bobs in my toolbox here. The plan is obviously when we've got the summer house set up, I will be able to put my tools in there and obviously have everything lined up, and then I can start looking at what I need. I have got various different chargers, obviously for charging a battery. And also, just for example, I needed something to stand the car on. Just knocked it up out of a bit of wood. Job done. It doesn't matter how you're doing this. There is no right and wrong way to actually doing this hobby, as long as you're doing it without damaging a vehicle and repairing it. So, I hope this was informative. It was a bit weird for me to do a video like this, but I promise you, you don't have to spend a great deal to get things done. Now, as time goes by, you get more into the hobby. I'm pretty sure you can replace a lot of this with some lot better stuff, e.g., like myself, I'm going to replace now with a driver. I'll then start looking at other things like better pliers and stuff like that, and brushes, whatever. But yeah, as time goes by, replace stuff. But in the meantime, have the tools you need. So let's dive back up and we'll go from there. Welcome back, guys. Right now, as I mentioned previously, a lot of people tend to think you've got to spend an absolute fortune to keep your RCs maintained and working well. That isn't normally the case, guys. As long as you've got yourself a decent set of hex screwdrivers, a good wrench, obviously, for your wheels, and the rest is kind of history. You kind of make it up as you go along. I find little bits now and again. I think, well, I could use that actually for removing, I don't know, let's say a screw, or I could use that for warming up a hex that's stuck, or it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Don't be an elitist, right? Don't put people off and say, you must buy blah, 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 blah. There's no right and wrong way to doing this. I would love to be able to afford some more expensive tools. One day that will happen. But in the meantime, a job's being done, and it's being done well. All my vehicles are maintained well. They're all kept clean and tidy, and so can yours. All right, so don't panic, guys. All right, don't panic. It is nice to have a good selection of tools on hand. There's some guys that absolutely thrive on building up their tools. I would love to be that way, and one day maybe you can as well. But in the meantime, work on your cars. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was quite informative. I've tried to be as true and as honest as I can in all my videos. It doesn't matter how you're doing it, just do it the way you want to do it and enjoy what you're doing. That's the main thing. In the meantime, check the box for more videos. Stay awesome, guys. See you later.